Feel the G-force.
This film was delicious.
It was so textbook
Yes.
that it was refreshing.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Movies Worth Seeing. I am Michael Piscineri, joined by Martin Young.
G'day.
And on today's episode, we're going to be looking at the incredible true story based on the video game Gran Turismo. This is a very different video game movie because instead of it just slapping on the name of the video game and making some random story out of it, like say Need for Speed, this film has a unique hook in that it's got a true story about a gamer who was such a fan, such a pro at the video game Gran Turismo, a racing simulator, that he ends up winning a competition to actually compete with professional racers that have trained their whole lives for it. Gran Turismo is such a breath of fresh air, especially after watching Barbie and reviewing that piece of shit, because it's just a simple story. It's trying to entertain its audience. It's not acting like it's the world's savior. It's just acting like a movie and just telling a straightforward classic hero's journey.
3-act structure.
Following all the textbook cliches, but because of the great cast, they elevate it into something special. They give it all these special moments and make it so much more emotionally investing. You find yourself going I know where this roller coaster is taking me, but I'm just enjoying the ride. They've actually got talented actors. Orlando Bloom and David Harbour are phenomenal in their different roles as mentor figures for Jan, the racer, the gamer. Yeah. And David Harbour especially, he is definitely not phoning it in. You feel like he is giving 110% conviction in this movie, and he provides some of the best laughs, the most emotionally engaging moments, and he hooked me in. I wanted to know more about his backstory.
It really helped that because this was based on a true story, that I could actually feel and believe in the gravity and the severity of the situation.
I also found it refreshing because this is an existing IP, and Hollywood doesn't have a good track record with existing IPs.
Yeah.
Gran Turismo had a great balance where it was appealing to the fans of it, but a non-gamer could get behind the story because it was simple to understand.
It tells a pretty universally understandable underdog rising from the ashes kind of story.
The great thing is that because this movie is based on a true story, these are real
You didn't have to
characters,
play the video games, no.
And the real life young gamer actually played the stunt double for the actor in this movie.
Good little trivia information at the ending.
So you can tell that this had passion. I think this film benefited from having a director like Neil Blomkamp. I got to make sure I say his name right. Neil Blomkamp. He's known for doing films like District 9, Chappie. They usually have a very similar look to them, but he's good at dealing with subtext and social kind of commentary. He gives his films, I feel, a very gritty, realistic look. It's not over the top with its colors and vibrancy. It's
euphoria.
It's realism.
Yeah. Good sound design really elevated the frantic and the visceral nature of the car races. The the quick insert shots coupled by the really rumbling of the car engines and the zooming shots. The extreme close-ups really helped to elevate us sort of exploring the protagonist's psyche and adrenaline mixed with anxiety, fear, and also too it's helped by the taller expanded 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio. When you have a taller aspect ratio, people's faces take up more of the entire canvas. For the most part, I wasn't being whiplashed by the speed of the editing. I could follow the action, but my only caveat is, and I will stick by the argument I made in the review for the Netflix movie Day Shift with Jamie Foxx, which is that I do want the use of FPV drone shots. Those ones fly zoom, zoom, so all these Dutch angles flying through crowds and going under the ball thing. I do think that for a movie just solely on race cars, that it does call for like those FPV drones shots for like the tracking shots, but I still do stand by that FPV drones should be used in moderation because there were more sparingly
This
things.
was nowhere near as bad as Day Shift.
Oh, no.
I remember Day Shift was like that ambulance movie where the drone was just flying everywhere and you could tell it was a drone. In this, I was like, oh, this could have been a crane shot. Or like, this makes sense. It's setting up the racetrack. It's getting us...
the speed of everything, you know? And it's, you know, it works for those.
Adds this dynamic, fluid movement to the camera. But in Day Shift, I was just like, that's a drone shot. That's a drone shot.
There was one shot I really, really liked, which emulated the camera behind car look. And it's like the turning, it's like to emulate the video game look. And the other thing I like is the overlays, the like final lap, fourth place. They actually conveyed information very well. They had like the tracking shot saying Yen was like now 12th place. And this is not in the camera department, but I liked how the antagonist was easily identifiable because he was always colored gold. So I like that the cinematography, they kept it wide when they needed to be. They punched in for close-ups to really get the adrenaline pumping. Yeah, and it's really helped by the video game sort of overlays. There was one bit at the beginning where they were running away from the police.
Where we were kind of like both had difference of opinion. Where
I didn't dislike it, just so you know.
Yen was being chased by a cop, and he was having this car chase, and the movie was just making all these video game announcements like cop avoidance, and it would just slap across the screen and like, you did it, you win. It made me feel like the movie's not taking itself. Are you right? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Cops evaded. Woo!
You win.
You're winner. Oh, and I guess final thing, I like the sparing use of sort of slow-mo shots to really like build the scene. It's the tiny details, the wheels kicking up the gravel and the dirt, and you can really pick up those details when it's like extreme slow motion, like high FPS, and you can see the grit and the dirt and the visceral nature of it. It helps to really build that this racetrack, this is the real world. This is where you experience the G-force. This is where you feel the inertia from when you initially pump on the accelerator, that you'll really push back into your seat. It's those tiny attention to details that they incorporate into the editing that and along with like the really rumbly sound design that you experience best when you're in this very center of the cinema, that really just really hits you in like heart thumping adrenaline.
It would have been good if this was like in those chairs that move around and shit.
Oh, that would be
that
cool.
would have been
4D.
cool.
Yeah,
4D would have worked well with this. When you talk about cinematography, though, one of the things that really got me was the car crashes. That was so visceral with the way it was captured inside the driver's seat. And with everything going on, it actually brought up stuff for me because I've been in a car accident, and I was like...
They captured that very well, that the whole blacking out sort of...
It captured the psyche of the trauma of being in a car accident. There was no point where I was like bored, wondering when the next race is happening. I felt like they broke it up really well to the point where there was nothing I felt needed to be cut. There were no scenes I felt were too long or too short. There were little things that I would have loved to see more of that could have been probably added like 10, 15 minutes. It's not really like a main antagonist, but Jan has to have obviously a rival racer. And this guy, you know, he plays dirty on the racetrack. He hits Jan at once and almost causes a major car accident. There was a point where I thought they were going to go full Rocky style with this villain and make him a bigger deal than he was. The film makes little remarks to allude that he's kind of this spoiled brat that's just been handed everything, but it would have been nice to understand more, maybe more from a point of view why this character has such a problem with Jan coming from the gaming world into the racing world.
But I guess my counterpoint though is that we don't want this biopic to be like a 2.5 hour movie. I think they just
that
needed...
was probably why.
Yeah, it's one of those nice to haves, but I don't think it's absolutely mandatory because it would have taken tension away from Jan's hero's journey.
Like maybe one more scene with him
That's true.
having a confrontation
without it
with Jan.
extending the runtime too long. You're
Yeah,
saying
something small like that.
good typecasting, don't you agree? It's like he's got the douchey haircut, it's got
Yeah.
like the like European look with like the very defined cheekbones and stuff.
Do you hate
And
Europeans?
you're
have a
trying to
problem
like
with
paint me
Europeans?
as a villain or something.
Oh, sorry.
Trying
I'm
to
just,
corner
I'm
me
just
or
doing
something.
that thing that people on TikTok do where they like just take
Oh, yeah.
apart every little thing you say. It's like, oh my god, of course you
I'm
like
not new
this
to the
movie.
internet.
It's all it's a 3 male lead movie and there's no girls in it. There were female characters in this, but it
Yeah.
does bring up a good point. There was also a love subplot that wasn't really given a lot of time. When I first saw it, I was kind of like I just didn't want to see a lot of it. From the first scene where I saw her, it was a bit like, okay, I know where this is going. It's too cliched now. Like I'm bored by that. So I think the movie did a smart job of being like, this is the stuff we have to put in, but we're not going to spend too much time on it.
Nothing overstays its welcome.
No.
I guess as a cinematographer, I didn't mind the like all too obvious Sony product placement, like proof of concept advertising with their cinema line of cameras and stuff. And as I go home, I would want to just like research what lenses they use for like the swirly bokeh and like when they really close up on the eyes and stuff. And speaking of product placements, let's go into that.
Yeah, my only gripe with Sony movies is they always have to remind you constantly that it's a Sony movie. Normally, I'm okay with it, but there's one part in this movie, a really emotional moment that's freaking very well acted, and I was
100%.
fully invested. But then you just see a giant Sony logo in the center of the frame and you're like, couldn't we have like taken it out of this scene and put in some other useless establishing shots or something? But there was it really kind of irked me on that particular
The
scene.
Sony Walkman, yeah.
It's like the actor's crying, he's got tears coming down his face, and then the next shot's just a big Sony. I don't want to like see someone like about to die in a movie and then a character goes and grabs a defibrillator and he's like, thank God I have these Sony sponsored defibrillators nearby.
Dear.
Click.
Yeah, it wasn't even subtle about it.
Yeah.
Especially because it was a prop that was used at an emotional high point of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But having said that, if this is Morbius and this is Into the Spider-Verse, it's like around here, leaning more towards Spider-Verse than it is towards Morbin time.
I was wondering how Morbius got brought into this conversation.
Because it's a Sony movie.
Oh, okay, I
Sony.
see what you mean.
That's why people thought this would be because Sony either does really good with Spider-Man or they do really freaking bad with Spider-Man, like Morbius and Uncharted. There's no in between.
Rarely is there an in-between movie. That's a good point. Yeah, it's a movie.
Having said that, it would have been
Weird.
good if there was like maybe a post-credit scene where Morbius just came out and he was like, I'll see you on the racetrack.
Morbius will
Yen.
return.
It's
Oh, man.
Morbin time. But yeah, I loved Gran Turismo. I thought it was a great time. Might not be the most memorable film, but if it's on, like, this would be the perfect movie to watch on a plane trip or something like that. It's probably not something you'll go back to, but it was an enjoyable experience.
I think for a racing movie, there's all the more attention put into the sound design and sort of that larger than life sort of scope that you would sort of be doing a disservice to not watch this in a theater.
Yeah. If you want something that's serviceable,
But that's not a problem,
that's
I'm saying.
entertaining, fun visuals, and isn't trying to shove a political message down your throat, then Gran Turismo is a good time. Yeah, I'd give Gran Turismo maybe like a 7.5, 8 out of 10.
See, it's hard because like the recent slate of movies really has dragged down sort of my hopes for Hollywood storytelling. It's just what a movie is supposed to just do. That's just the baseline. So I supposed to rate it so
if
high?
If this movie came out in another time in the world when movies weren't so this movie would probably be a 6. For example, if I watched this movie right after Thor Love and Thunder, I'd probably say it's a 10 out of 10 movie. Being fair, I also went in with low expectations. So that's another thing, which probably affected you. We both thought it's an intellectual property, it's a video game movie, and no one was really talking about it. and it's a Sony movie.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things working against it.
Yeah, I guess ultimately my point is it's definitely above average. It's just a textbook hero's journey movie. It's not meant to be a refreshing thing. So I'll say 7, but only just hesitantly. You know,
Yeah,
it's not groundbreaking. It's not Nolan-esque like poignant storytelling, you know?
Oh, because we didn't see the car accident at the start, and then we didn't see how it led up to the car accident. We didn't see that non-linear
storytelling.
If Nolan directed this, we wouldn't have heard any of the freaking dialogue.
Slow down. Anyway, 7.5 and 7.
I'll give it. Nah, you've convinced me. I'll give it a 7. So
refreshing
Gran
textbook
Turismo.
movies.
Refreshing
Because it's
interestingly.
textbook, you know?
Yeah, the simplicity of this movie is actually its best asset.
Agreed, 100%.
If Ryan Johnson directed this movie, it probably would have been like the guy dies, even though this is based on a true story of a guy that's alive.
Don't reinvent the wheel, Sony, and wheel. And I'm glad
Jesus. So that's us, guys. I'm Michael Piscineri, joined by Martin Young, and this is Movies Worth Seeing. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a like, share, and subscribe. That's us, guys. Take care.
Take care. Drive safe out there, like all the Need for Speed games used to say at the beginning. Out in the real world, you're gonna feel the G-force. Woo!
Oh, shit.